Glasses are since no more. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the SCC School of Business and Legal Studies workshops. It's exciting to know that we were doing these and we had to discontinue them during COVID, and this is the first one that we've done since that time. And I'm excited this was originally organized by Dr. Van Ding, who will be our primary speaker this morning. We'd like to thank you all for coming. Just some general acknowledgments. Make sure you sign up when you come in. We do have 6 $50 Visa cards that we will be giving out at the end, and we will randomly pick names from that list. I do need to open up with our native land acknowledgement. We are honored to acknowledge that the community colleges of Spokane and our main campuses for Spokane Falls and Spokane Community College are located on the traditional and sacred homelands of the Spokane tribe. We also provide services in the region that include the traditional and sacred homelands of the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation and the Kalispel tribe. We pay our respects to the tribal elders, both past and present, as well as to all indigenous people today. This land holds their cultural DNA, and we are honored and grateful to be here on their traditional lands. We give thanks to the legacy of the original people and their descendants and pledge to honor their stewardship and values. A couple of different things here real quickly. I'd like to do some acknowledgments. Dr. Van Ding, who will be speaking here, the work that she put into this. Bruce Steele, I don't know if Bruce is in here or not, but Bruce and Gordon Grove have been a great help to us putting this together. We are streaming this live over Facebook presently, and it will also be available on YouTube later today. We also want to thank the CCS Foundation for their grant to be able to have this event today. Alex Luna, who did a lot of our graphic design, Abed Perez, who is running our cameras for the stream, and Jonathan Glover with our CCS Public Information Group. Also like to thank all the faculty of the SCC School of Business and Legal Studies. We will be holding all questions and answers to the very end, so we can have that. We'll have a microphone. We'll walk around and have everyone speak. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Van Ding.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. And first of all, I would like to say thank you to CCS Foundation for sponsoring this event. And especially thank you, Mike Allen, for helping me all the way through. And also thank you to all the faculty members and all the colleagues at SCC for helping me to make this happen. Okay, so actually my presentation today will be divided into 2 parts. In the first part, I'm going to have a brief introduction about myself and why I would like to have this workshop. And the second, I will share with you some information about personal finance management, okay? So let me start with introducing about myself. I'm a Vice Dean of Faculty of Finance and Banking at Vietnam National University, University of Economics and Business, and currently I'm a Fulbright working at Department of Business, Hospitality, and Finance Information Technologies at SCC. And I'm teaching Introduction to Business and Economics here. I'm also a founder of Vietnam Financial Literacy Network, connecting all the practitioners, researchers, and all the people who want to improve financial literacy for Vietnamese people. I'm also the co-founder of Pronexus that connect users and financial planners in Vietnam. That's a fintech startup. I was in UC Berkeley, California in 2013 and 2014 under another Fulbright scholarship, and this time at SCC, Spokane, Washington State. My research interests include personal finance, financial inclusion, digital finance, and fintech development. And I'm teaching most of the finance and banking subjects, including business and economics. That's basically about myself. So now, I would like to move to my presentations. Well, you all know that even America is a great country, developed countries. Millions of people lost their jobs after COVID-19 happens, right? So that's why many people are struggling with finance now, just wind up in deep in debt. According to Federal Reserve survey of consumer finance, on average, an American family owe about $6,270 in credit card. And only 40% of Americans can pay for $400 in cash. Also, or in credit card that can quickly pay off. So therefore, in my presentation today, my aim is I would like to raise the awareness of the importance of personal finance for all of us here. So let me start my presentation by asking you a question. How do you spend your time a day? Okay, well, we have a very finite life. On average, a person have 78 years of living. Okay, so we spend about 10.5 years of working, 28.3 years of sleeping, and yes. So that's why I think how do you know people? If you know how people use their time, it will help you to use your time most productively, okay? If you still don't know what you want to do for your future, I would like to introduce to you a way, a practical tool to find what you really want to do in life, which is called Ikigai. What is Ikigai? What is your Ikigai? Ikigai is a Japanese word which translated literally would mean what is worth living for. It is a practical tool for all people who want to discover the meaning of life or what makes you want to wake up every day with excitement. Okay, so there are 4 focus of Ikigai that intersect, that you can find your Ikigai in the middle. Okay, the first one is what the world needs, what you love, what you will be paid for, or what you are good at. Some people, they may work with a lot of money, but they have no passion for their jobs. Some persons who pursue their dreams and passions, but they cannot earn enough money for their livings. So the point is, if you look at different sections here, you need to find somewhere in between so you can find your Ikigai and you know what you want to do in life. Personal finance management, we start with finding your meaning of life, finding what you want to do in life. Einstein once said, if you want to live a happy life, tie it to a goal, not to people or things, okay? So if you have a clear goal in life, let's look at the picture, 2 pictures here. a person who don't have a clear life, who doesn't have a clear life in life, they will keep going back and forth to different directions, and then they may end up at the beginning, at the initial point. Okay, so another person who have a very clear goal, they will go straight forward from their current position to their visions in the future, and they will use all the current capability to move to the goal they set. Okay, so sometimes you will have different goals in life from A1, A2, A3, A4, or A5. All the goals here will be in the same direction for you to go to the vision you have for your future. And it's really, really normal for you sometimes to lose your way. But within the border lines, the green border lines, it's like a highway, okay? You can move to the different direction, but then you manage to find a way to get back to your mainstream light, the red line here. And you will go to your vision at the end with the shortest time. So personal financial management starts with finding your meaning of life, finding what you want to do in life, and you will not regret later. If you don't know how you live, if you don't know how, anyway, it's simply the management of money and the financial decisions in your life, including some decisions in career development and income, spending, budgeting, borrowing, credit building, saving and investment, or pension insurance and retirement. So those are the financial decisions that you have to make in your entire life. And earning is the very starting point for you to manage your own finance. All of us have different abilities and different talents. So you may want to start your own business, become an entrepreneur, or you can work for a company, an organization, right? So in a very famous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki said that there are different people in a different quadrant. In here, he introduced the concept of ESBI. Okay, people who are in E quadrant will work for a companies. They will work from 9 to 5, and you can meet them from all walks of life, from a janitor to a CEO of companies. Okay, people in S quadrant will be self-employed. That the people who have the professional skills that they can work for themselves to make money. For example, accountants, attorneys, engineers, okay? The people in the B quadrant are business owners. They have a system and people work for them to generate income for them. And people in I quadrant are investors who invest in stocks, invest in companies. So actually, money will work for them. So it seems that people in the E and S quadrants will not be able to make a lot of money as people in the B and I. But the good news is we can be in both 4 quadrants. People can be employees for companies and can invest at the same time. Okay, so just so you know that if you want to be in what quadrant, you need to know your purpose in life. Normally, when talking about income, we will see that people at the very beginning state, under 25, they often borrow more than they earned. So in the first stage, your income may be less, but in the later stage, from the age of 25 to 65, normally you will earn more and you will start saving for your future, right? And at the later part, when you retire, your consumption might be greater than your income. So you are about to save, but people often make three main mistakes here. The first one is during the saving times, working times, spend too much and not accumulate wealth. And when you want to accumulate wealth, it might be late. So you need to focus on saving at the state that you are working. The second mistake is even if you want to accumulate wealth, you know how to accumulate wealth in savings, but you don't know how to invest. You can develop your wealth very quick. And the third mistake is you may start investing, but you don't have a lot of experience and knowledge, then you end up losing money. So how can you avoid those mistakes? Budgeting and spending management will be very useful for you to start thinking about your finance. The main important thing is you need to distinguish between something you need and something that you just want to have. And also you need to set short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals for your life. There are different methods of managing your money. For example, you can use 6-year system, or you can use the 50-30-20 budget rules in order to manage your own money. So basically, those methods will help you to split your money into different portions with different purpose, and you will not overspend your portions of that purpose, okay? And saving is very important habit that you need to build during your life. Making smart choice with your money is the first step toward becoming financially fit. So, saving actually help you to protect your money, and also saving can help you to grow your money. And therefore, you need to change your mindset from saving after you spending to saving first, saving for yourself first. So the regular formula people always think is income when you receive, and you will spend, and then the rest you will save. But actually, the more proper way is you should save some money first, whenever you receive any income, and then you spend the rest, okay? This mindset will change your money management habit, and you will save for your future. So sometimes in life, of course, you need to borrow money. You need to borrow money for your educations, you invest in yourself, or you need to borrow money to buy a car to work or a house, right? But it's very important that you need to know when you should borrow. And my colleague here, Nicole, will tell you about how to build your own credit and how to negotiate to have the best interest when you are borrowing later. But I just want you to know that later, 35 sets aside $5,000 per year for 30 years, so roughly 150,000 K. But at the age of 65, investor one still having a higher wealth of $787K, right? And investor two have only 12K. So the point is, the money that you put aside every day or every month is important, but the times you invest is even more important. So the earlier, let's take advantage of your age now. And don't forget to diversify in your investment portfolios. You can invest in cash, a saving account, or bonds, stocks, gold, real estate. This is just one example of diversify your money into different categories of assets. When I taught my students about retirement and pension, they often laugh because in the age of 20s, retirement seems too far off, and it doesn't seem real at all, right? But there are many reasons that we need to think about retirement now. For example, the rising healthcare costs. On average, according to the National Health Expenditure Accounts in 2020, healthcare expense accounted for 19.7% of the total GDP of the US. So the healthcare costs will be higher and higher in the future. If you don't have your money now, who is going to take care of your health in the future? The standard of living, of course, you want to have a high standard of living. The GDP per capita in the US now is 63.5 thousand per year, okay? So you want to keep your post-retirement lifestyles as well. And the inflation, of course, it's devaluate our wealth every year. By now, the inflation is about 8%. The highest rate since the last several years, right? So you need to think about pension and retirement plan soon at the early age. One of the common excuses that you are too young to think about retirement, but besides the benefits of early retirement or early saving, like I mentioned before, you can accumulate wealth and you can protect your future by thinking about retirement early. So that leads to a new wave of young workers who want to retire early recently. The movement called FIRE, which stands for Financial Independence, and retire early recently. The concept is that people will start saving and investing aggressively about 50 to 70% of all the income, so they can retire early at the age of 30s or 40s, yes, real early. So using the 4 rules, you can save about 20 times of your expenses. For example, before retirement, if you spend $20,000 per year, then you need to save about $500,000 for retirement. And every year, you will withdraw 4% of your interest to live, and you will have enough for about 30 years, okay? Later, after retirement. So what is financial freedom? Dave Ramsey, one of the very well-known financial planner in the US, said that financial freedom means that you get to make life decisions without being overly stressed about the financial impact because you are prepared. And you control your finance instead of being controlled by them. Everyone wants to be financially free, right? Anyone here want to retire early? Okay, yes. So let me end my presentation by showing 2 pictures to you. In the first picture, you will see that at the start line of a marathon, there are so many people out there. Everybody is excited to start with, but at the finish line, there are only few people can make it, right? Few people can go to the finish line. And some people have different pace when they reach the finish line. So it's similar to financial freedom. Many people want to have financial freedom, but only few people who have a life goals, clear life goals, and who have disciplines can make it to the finish line. So what future do you want to be? What finish line do you want to have? It's entirely up to you. Thank you for listening and good luck.
Thank you again. Sage advice. The earlier you start, the time value of money and compounding makes a huge, huge difference in what that looks like as far as what it looks like during retirement. And, when you think about the average lifespan of an American in 1935 was about 54 years old, and now it's about 78, 79 years old. You might need to save a little bit as you get going. So thank you. That was a great presentation talking about types of investments, how you can set yourself up for success in the future. But like a lot of folks, some of us find ourselves running up on the rocks on our credit, and sometimes we need to figure out a way to rebuild that. Our next speaker is Nicole Hansen from the Women's Business Center. She spoke for us a couple years ago as well, and I know some students that took advantage of her services and significantly repaired their credit to help start rebuilding their future financially. So please welcome Nicole Hansen.
Thank you, Mike, and thanks everybody for allowing me to take some of your time today. So I'm Nicole Hansen, Women's Business Center Manager. I have a background in banking and an MBA from Whitworth. So we have a class called Drain Your Bad Debt, and I pulled the material today from this workshop. Here's my contact information. Best way to get a hold of me is the email address. So if you have any questions after this, please go ahead and refer those out to me. And, just FYI, I actually graduated from SCC a long time ago. Yeah, oh my gosh. Time flies when you're heading towards the 50s. Okay, so here's a few numbers. 40% of consumer debt is delinquent, and these are numbers as of 2015. So I wasn't able to find the most updated numbers, but if you think about that, 40% of the people in this room, 4 out of every 10, has delinquent debt on their credit report. Total U.S. consumer debt is $3.9 trillion. It's kind of amazing when you really think about the impact of delinquent debt, and all that debt is tied to fees and loss of buying power to those that have that delinquent debt. How many of you have ever been denied for a loan? How many of you have student loan debt? How many of you would like to buy a house, a new car? All of those things that happen in your life are going to tie back to your credit score. Junk mail is even tied to your credit score. I'll talk about that a little bit. There's some interesting trends that happen as your credit score fluctuates. But there is help. There's 4 federal laws in favor of consumers reporting, protecting consumers, and allowing them to dispute errors on their credit report. 14% of the population has below a 550 score. So a credit score can range anywhere from about 400 up to 850, depending on the credit score that the credit reporting agency and the credit score that they're using. Some of the factors that influence your credit score: your payment history is the biggest at 35%. Your outstanding debt is 30%, and what that means is the percentage that you owe against your revolving credit lines. The length of time you've had credit history, new credit, and the types of credit that you use. So it's that combination between revolving and installment debt. Installment debt is the the payments that are fixed over time. There's no fluctuation in that payment amount, and the payments will reduce your your loan over time. And it'll pay to a zero if you complete the entire term. And the final thing is how many months since the most recent collection? Okay, some of the common derogatory credit report items that you might see or hear about, there's collections, and that's when a debt is sold or managed by a third party. So if you had a check bounce or you had an account that went negative and the financial institution didn't want to carry that on their books any longer, they can sell that debt to a collection agency. A charge-off, that's the term that they use of financial institution when you have a debt and it is not paid. So it is the financial institution writes off that debt so they don't have to carry it on their books anymore as a liability. And that's the debt that is sold off to the third party. A repossession, there's two types, a voluntary repossession and an involuntary repossession. It's just what it is. The creditor comes and takes their vehicle as for an involuntary repossession. If you return the vehicle on your own, then that's a voluntary repossession. And it doesn't matter which one it is, it's still affecting your credit score the same. There's also foreclosures. When you have a home and you lose your home because of unable to pay, that's called a foreclosure, and the bank takes it back. Every one of those things takes away from your wealth. We want to grow our assets, and each one of those things takes away either our savings, our personal income, or an asset, a home or a car. So clues that you might be having credit issues is you might be receiving letters or phone calls from debt collectors. You're denied for credit. You have a wage or account garnishments, or there's a lien established on your property. Those are all very scary things. So what do we do? The first thing is we need to take an assessment of where we are. And the best way to do that when you're talking about credit is to pull a copy of your credit report. Annualcreditreport.com is the recommended true source to get your most accurate credit report. You can pull a credit report from any of the 3 credit bureaus through this website, or you can pull one from each, or you can pull from all 3 or just one. I pull personally one every 4 months, one from each credit bureau. And each one of those I pull is free, as long as I don't request my score. So don't get your score. We don't care about the score so much. We want to just make sure everything is accurate. So then you review it for accuracy. If there's things that are wrong, you want to check your identifying information. You want to check the different accounts. You want to make sure that any debt or any trade line on that credit report actually belongs to you. Then you want to identify any late payments, high balanced credit cards, or any past due accounts. And then we're going to create a plan. Anything that's delinquent, you want to bring those current. You want to pay down revolving credit card debts, ideally below 30% of the limit. That'll maximize your credit score. That one item can raise your credit score the next time the credit report the financial institution reports back to the credit bureau. So if you pay down your unsecured debt from 50% down to 30%, your score will increase. You want to dispute through the credit bureau any errors that are on your credit report. It could be that there might be an account that's not yours. In that case, we want to do a little bit different, but if there's something that isn't correct, like there's a balance that's not correct, or there's the name isn't correct, then you would dispute those through the credit bureau. If the debt is not yours, and it could be identity theft, one of the first things to do is do a validation letter. And you can validate your collections, judgments, and any of those errors through a letter to the creditor. The reason I wanted to do this first through the creditor is that once you file that letter through the creditor, if they don't respond, then you can then go through the credit bureau and file directly with them, and then they have to act within 30 days. They have to get back to you. When talking to a collector prior to validation, do not admit fault. If they're calling you, you just say, hey, thanks so much. Please send me that in writing. It doesn't sound like mine. I'd like to validate that debt. And then they can send you the information on that. When talking to a collector, once you're ready to pay the collection, then negotiate payment and request the payment in writing. The validation letter, what it does is it explains to them that they need to send you proof that this obligation is yours. If they cannot provide you the proof the obligation is yours, then it can be removed from your credit report. I really do caution you that if it is actually your obligation, your debt, then you should pay it, or you should admit, because if you dispute it frivolously, then the credit bureaus can take that right away from you, or they can delay the processing. Or it can be added back to your credit report, and then it would stay on your credit report for another 7 years. So keys to success: keep a diary, take notes, and request any agreements in writing. Get names, dates, details of those who are promising what. Follow up in writing on disputes after 30 days. And avoid debt restructuring, debt repair, and any oh boy, that's a bad typo. Advertisement or phone call that sounds too good to be true, because it's probably a scam. So everything on your credit report has a lifetime. And things expire. Most everything on your credit report is going to fall off 7 years from the date of last activity. So when you're disputing a collection, and it's only a year from the time it's going to fall off your credit report, it might not be the best time to dispute that collection. You might want to just let it age off. But be careful, because some of those, they'll take them to judgment, and then you'll have court cases and garnishments and things like that. So the best way to approach this is find a very qualified financial counselor to help you through this process. You can always contact me, and I can get you in touch with one. Now, how many of you have very little credit history and would like to build your credit to begin with? Anybody have? Yeah, so one of the ways that we can rebuild our credit, even if you have some challenges on your credit, is to do what's called a savings secured loan. And there's two different types. There's a fixed installment loan and a credit card loan. You place money into a savings account, and the financial institution will secure those two loans using the savings account that you have. So it's using your own money to establish your debt. Great thing about this is it's a blend of the two types of credit that I mentioned earlier, revolving and installment. And that helps you establish a credit score. One of our most successful clients that's disputed and worked to rebuild their credit, this was the key part that brought their credit score from the 500 range up to the 700 range. So by establishing two new accounts in 6 months, he was able to bring up his score while also disputing inaccurate debt and validating those collections that were on his credit report. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you all again for coming today. Do we have any questions for either one of our speakers? So if you want to go up too, I'll have you both at the podium and so you can answer.
Hello, thank you. So with retrospect to retiring early, which you were ending with, I believe there's no real factor in retiring early, because if you retire early, you take a hit on your overall retirement that you invested, right? So if, say, I believe the retiring age is 64, if you retire, say 63, there's a percent that you will be hit for retiring early, correct?
I think yeah, it's in social welfare, but the meaning of retire early here, I mean that you can start doing what you want to do without being stressed by money, right? So you still can work, but you are not stressed, and you can follow what you want to do, and then you feel free to do what you do. Doesn't mean, and you have many other options besides social welfare. And anyway, social welfare is not always enough for your retirement life, right? So you will have other plans like Roth IRA or your own retirement plan, right? 401k, different. I don't really be familiar with the retirement system in the U.S., but I know for sure that if you have for your own personal finance plan, then you can control your life with your own money, right? You cannot depend on the social welfare because sometimes it's not the lifestyle that you want to maintain and you want to have, right?
Yeah, so I've been a union worker through the laborers for 23 years. I
Yep.
transferred from Alaska. So when I transferred to Spokane, I had thought all my investment into, the retirement in Alaska chapter would just, no, I have two separate accounts, and I would like to be able to condense them both.
Yeah.
But they're through two different, like one's Fannie Mae and then this one's through a different agency. So I'm just intrigued on how I can go about
All
combining
the
those
money into your one account.
with the biggest bang, obviously, right, for our bucks. Because if you're making that commitment of investing both of your retirements into one option, it's got to be the best one.
Yeah, I don't really understand the system here, so Nicole might explain to you, but I just want to explain to you that, every account have its own requirements, so you have to follow that, and you might not be able to match it in one account, but gradually your money, even it in two accounts, will increase, right? For your retirement purpose. And I don't know how he can, connect two accounts to one account. Nicole?
Yeah, so depending on whether it's a pension or if it's a 401k or that type of investment will determine whether you can merge them and roll them into one. If it's a 401k, you can use a normal rollover transaction to merge them together. A certified financial planner can help you make those decisions. Some union retirement stays with that union. My husband has steelworkers, Teamsters, and another one. So he has 3 different unionized retirements. Each one of them does not allow for a change because it's tied to a pension. So once he hits a retirement age, he can start drawing from them. The only one that I know of that is if you retire early and you quit working and you start drawing on your Social Security, that's where you would only get a certain portion of the amount. But you can retire early and not draw Social Security until you meet that age requirement.
Okay.
So you can still get your full retirement from Social Security if you stop working early. You just can't draw from it until you hit that 65 or 67 or 70.
So with the credit score, so what I did was where I invest $500 into Numerica. I get a card, it's a charge card, but I have to have that remaining balance of $500 every month, right? So what I found to be the problem and the issue was, you can't bring that back up to $500 too soon. They're like a week prior to when, the first of the month is usually when that needs to happen. And then they made it simple, just buy your gas. Just fill your tank one time and that will do it for you. Well, that wasn't the case. It's like, buy some gas and some groceries. So it was a real juggling balance, more than.
Yes, so this is what they call it at Numerica as a share secured visa. And how that visa works is so how visas are looked at on your credit report is the high balance that's reported at the end of the month when the credit union reports to the credit bureau. That's what shows. So if your total balance is below 30%, that'll maximize your credit score on looking at that one credit card. But if you have more than one revolving line of credit, the credit report looks at the total composite amount that you owe versus the total amounts of limits. And if that is over 30%, that'll affect your credit score. Also, if you have more than 2 cards with a balance on that, that can also lower your score. And there's a fallacy that says that you have to have a balance every month on that credit card in order for it to reflect positively on your credit. That is actually inaccurate. The credit report doesn't know, when it looks at your payment history, whether you have a 0 balance or a positive balance. It's looking at the time total that you've had that obligation on your credit and not whether you've had a payment every month. My credit card has had a 0 balance for months at a time, and my credit score stays high. The only time it drops is when I use my card and I don't pay it off at the end of the month. The other thing is your credit statement, your payment's due on the 25th of the month or whatever date, and they report it either the end of the month or the beginning of the month. And if your balance is high on that time when it's reported at the end of the month, then that's the amount that's reported to the credit bureau. So if you're trying to adjust your credit score to apply for something, pay the debt off at least 60 days before you apply for credit for that next loan, because that way you know for sure that debt that credit card has the lowest possible balance on it to make your usage percentage the lowest.
So a couple of key things coming out of that is, one, very good point. Unions in particular have their own pensions, and they're by state. So she gave her example. My dad worked in California in the state as a carpenter. He had 2 pensions because he couldn't combine them as well. The other thing about Social Security is you can start drawing at 62. I think you draw, 70% of your overall total benefit had you wait till 67. So most everyone in this room, you can't have 100% Social Security benefit until you're 67 and I think 1 month. So they have to change it because we live longer, so the money might run out sooner. But also, if you work to 70, you get like 120% of your projected benefit. So that's the way that works. The key thing is don't count on Social Security to be your only retirement income. All right, because that is not a lifestyle I think most of you will be accustomed to by that time. So, yes.
Hi, my name is Kimmy, and my question is for Nicole. How does one establish credit history when they don't have a credit history at all?
The savings secured loan or a savings secured credit card is the best way to establish credit if you have none. They approve you not based on your current credit, but on the fact that you're borrowing your own money. So.
Okay, so what if I'm on disability, because I have disabilities and everything, and I have a very low income because my situation, so I'm not allowed to have a savings account because of that. So I have limitations. So what could I do to establish credit while being on Social Security disability?
So I believe that you can have a small savings amount. It depends on your situation. I would talk to your social worker or your advisor on that. All you need is $500 is the minimum to put in that savings account, and then you would secure your loan against that $500. If that's not an option, pretty soon, I'm hoping within the next 3 months, we'll have our Credit Builder program back, where we work with various financial institutions to help you get that partnership with 3 different financial institutions in Spokane to build that savings secured card and installment loan.
Okay.
So just keep in touch.
Coming around.
On your slide, you had said that to not make a mistake, we need to educate ourselves on investing. What is the best way to gain knowledge so that we don't make mistakes when we start, investing in different things?
Yeah, I think there's so many different resources that you can have. I think you can start with raising the awareness, and then you will find a lot of resources to support you to avoid those mistakes. And you need to build your good habits in money management, right? So to help you to start with, we have the materials that we put outside on the tables, and you can start by reading those materials. And then I think because good habits is always difficult to get, but bad habit is easy to have, right? So in order to have a good habit of money management, you may work with somebody, for example, your friends, your family, to keep track. For example, if you want to buy something too expensive, that's what you want, not what you need. Then somebody may tell you that you shouldn't buy this. Then you can start having disciplines and building your good habits of managing money. And I think for many of my classes, I will have the homework for my students at the beginning that please have a financial goal at the beginning of the class and have a classmate to supervise and to help you to reach that financial goal at the end of the semesters. And they always feel it's very helpful to have somebody like a coach or a friend to go with you when you are building your bad habit or when you are changing your financial management skills. So
the other thing I would add, just tack onto that, is risk tolerance. Some of us, I'm willing to take a lot of risk where someone else may not be able to because they can't stand losing $1. So that also plays in the type of investments. It gets into what this thing is called an asset allocation. How much you put into stocks, how much you put into bonds. And you shift that as you get older. So when you're young and have 40 years to invest, you can go pretty aggressive into stocks, like 90%, maybe 10% bonds or cash. But when you get to be 60, like I'm creeping up on, you got to change it so it's maybe 70% or 60%, and you have more things that protect your asset. And the great example of that is 2007. What happened in 2007? The market roughly halved itself, okay? So you had people who were sitting on $300,000 in retirement money all of a sudden staring at 150. All right, and so because they didn't change their asset allocation, or they thought this good time's going to roll forever, they found themselves in a very difficult position. And there's a psychology that goes with it, and that psychology is, it's only worth 150. What am I going to do? Guess what a lot of people do? They cash out and lock in those losses. Had they waited it out for another 2.5, 3 years, they would have made all that money up plus. So another part of being an investor is waiting out the bad times. It's pretty important. So I think we got time for one more question. Anybody? Going once? Yes. Yeah, you're welcome to come down and speak to our speakers. I do need to announce the winners of the gift certificates or the Visa cards as our closing. These were drawn at random with the help of Diana Osborne, our esteemed faculty. Once again, I need to have glasses. All right. Hi. Come on down, sir. I'll need you to sign for this. The next one is Sherry Jordan. Come on down. Casey or Kelsey Porter. Casey or Kelsey Porter? Something along those lines? No. Must have been a drive-by. Tony Whittle. Tony. Jessica Fan. Alexandra Gama. Come on down. All right, so we have, 4? So we get to have, if you're not here, you can't win. So I'm going to have you, Dr. Van, give me a number between 1 and 10.
Well, I like 8. So.
Number 8, John Durham.
Oh.
Come on down. I got one more. Nicole, you want to give me a number between 1 and 9?
3.
Martina, come on down. All right, those are your winners for today. So you guys stick around. I'll need you to sign for these. Big round of applause for our speakers today.
Thank you.
And we want to thank